Commander Zethkari stood in the control center of his ship, staring at the glowing screen in front of him. The numbers and symbols made no sense. He blinked his large eyes and looked again. The screen still showed the same impossible information. "Officer Velthane," he called to his assistant. "Come here and look at this." The younger alien walked over quickly. His 3 arms moved in nervous patterns as he studied the display. "Sir, what am I looking at?" The deep space sensors picked up something in Sector 7 Delta, a ship that should not exist. Velthane's breathing slowed. Every member of the Vorthan Empire knew about Sector 7 Delta. It was one of the most dangerous areas in this part of the galaxy. 3 massive gravity wells surrounded it like invisible walls. Any ship trying to pass through would be crushed into tiny pieces unless it had the most advanced technology. "Perhaps the sensors are broken?" Velthane suggested hopefully. "Run." "The scan again," Zethkari ordered. "Full power. I want to be completely sure." The massive scanning array on their ship turned toward the distant sector. Energy beams shot out into space, searching for any sign of life or technology. Minutes passed as the computers worked to process the information. Finally, the results appeared on the screen. The second scan showed exactly the same thing. A metal ship drifted slowly through Sector 7 Delta. The computer identified it as human technology based on its design and materials. The ship was small compared to Vorthan vessels, but it was definitely real. Zethkari felt his chest tighten with worry. Humans were supposed to be a weak species. They had only recently learned to travel between stars, and even then, they could barely leave their own small area of space. The Galactic Council had rated them as Level 2, which meant they were like children playing with simple toys. "Check the ship's identification," he told Velthane. The younger officer's fingers danced across the control panel. "The markings say it is called Henderson's Pride. It belongs to something called the Terran Colonial Authority." "Terran means human," Zethkari explained. "But this makes no sense. Humans do not have the technology to reach Sector 7 Delta. They cannot control gravity the way we can. They have no phase shift drives. They should not be able to survive the journey." Velthane looked at the readings again. "Sir, the ship appears to be undamaged. It is moving at normal speed and showing no signs of distress." This made everything worse. If the human ship had somehow been thrown into the sector by accident, it should be broken and dying. Instead, it seemed to be operating normally, as if traveling through deadly space was no problem at all. "Contact the Nexari monitoring station immediately," Zethkari commanded. "Send them our scan data. They need to see this." The Nexari were one of the other major powers in the galaxy. They were made of living crystal and had technology that could rival the Vorthan Empire. If anyone could explain how humans had reached the impossible sector, it would be them. Within an hour, Zethkari's communication system lit up with incoming messages. The Nexari had shared the information with the Astral Dominion, the third major power. All 3 civilizations were now focused on the small human ship that should not exist. The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Shardsinger Kithara from the Nexari Collective. Her crystal features sparkled with light as she spoke. In her musical voice, "Commander Zethkari, we have reviewed your data. This situation is deeply concerning." Another section of the screen showed Flow State Nexander from the Astral Dominion, the energy being pulsed with different colors as it communicated. The probability calculations are clear. No Level 2 species should be capable of reaching Sector 7 Delta. The gravitational forces would destroy any primitive vessel. "Yet there it is," Zethkari replied, gesturing toward the sensor display. A human ship, apparently undamaged, drifting through space that should have killed it instantly. Kithara's crystal body rang like a bell as she considered the problem. Perhaps our classification of human technology was incorrect. Maybe they have been hiding their true capabilities. "That seems unlikely," Nexander pulsed. "Our agents have been monitoring human development for decades. They still use chemical rockets for most of their space travel. Their fastest ships can barely reach half the speed of light. They have no gravitational manipulation technology whatsoever. Zethkari pulled up more detailed scans of the Henderson's Pride. Look at the ship's construction. It is clearly primitive, by our standards. Metal hull, chemical thrusters, basic life support systems. This is not advanced technology disguised to look simple. This is actually simple technology. Then how? Velfane asked quietly, how did they get there? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. The three most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were staring at proof that their understanding of technology and physics might be incomplete. A species they had dismissed as primitive had somehow accomplished something that should have been impossible. We need to make contact, Tifara finally said. We must learn how they achieved this feat. Agreed, Nexander pulsed. But we must be careful. If humans have developed technology beyond our comprehension, they could be dangerous. Zethkari nodded slowly. I will approach the vessel and attempt communication. All three of our fleets should be prepared to respond if the situation becomes threatening. As the commander prepared to contact the human ship, his mind raced with possibilities. What if humans had discovered something that the galaxy's greatest minds had missed? What if their primitive appearance was hiding revolutionary breakthroughs? What if the entire galactic order was about to change? The Henderson's Pride continued its slow journey through Sector 7 Delta, completely unaware that it had become the center of the greatest mystery in galactic history. Inside the ship, human crew members went about their daily routines, not knowing that their presence in that region of space was supposedly impossible. Zethkari took a deep breath and activated the communication system. This is Commander Zethkari of the Vorthan Empire to the human vessel Henderson's Pride. Please respond. The response came quickly, spoken in the strange but oddly pleasant sounds of human language. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Henderson's Pride. We read you, Commander. Is there a problem? The casual tone in the human's voice made Zethkari's anxiety worse. The human captain sounded completely relaxed, as if being contacted by alien ships was a normal occurrence. Either humans were incredibly brave, or they truly did not understand the significance of their location. Captain Morrison, you are in a restricted and extremely dangerous area of space. How did your vessel reach this sector? There was a pause before the human replied. We had some trouble with our navigation system and got a bit lost. We're running a standard survey mission while we try to figure out where we are. Why? Is this area off limits? Zethkari felt his world shift slightly. The human spoke as if traveling through deadly space was merely an inconvenience, as if getting lost among gravity wells that could crush starships was just a minor technical problem. Captain Morrison, he said carefully, this sector requires the most advanced technology in the galaxy to reach safely. Your species has been classified as possessing only basic space travel capabilities. Please explain how you overcame the gravitational barriers. The silence that followed was longer this time. When the human finally spoke, his voice carried a note of confusion. Gravitational barriers? I'm not sure what you mean, Commander. Our navigation system is experimental, but it's designed to find safe paths through space anomalies. We call it the probability drive. Three of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations shared a moment of stunned silence. The humans had not only reached the impossible sector, but they had done it with something they casually called a probability drive. The implications were staggering, and the questions were just beginning. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Henderson's Pride, watching the alien ships approach through the main view screen. Three different vessels moved toward them, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. The ships glowed with strange energy patterns and moved without any visible engines or thrusters. Captain, we're getting more transmission signals, reported Communications Officer Lisa Park from her station. The Universal Translator is working. Hard, but I think they want to talk. Morrison nodded and straightened his blue uniform. He had been captain of survey missions for 8 years, but he had never expected to make first contact with alien species. The Henderson's Pride was just a research vessel, designed to explore distant star systems and look for planets suitable for human colonies. Put them through, Lisa. Let's see what they have to say. The main screen flickered and changed to show the face of an alien creature. It had a triangular head with smooth gray skin and several eye stalks that moved independently. The creature's mouth was small and round, and when it spoke, the sounds were musical and flowing. Human vessel, I am Commander Zethkari of the Vorthan Empire. You are in violation of restricted space. How did you arrive in this sector? Morrison stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Colonial Authority ship Henderson's Pride. We experienced a navigation malfunction and are currently lost. We're conducting standard survey operations. While attempting to determine our location, the alien's eye stalks twisted in what might have been confusion or surprise. Morrison could see that the creature was having trouble understanding something. Captain Morrison, this sector requires Level 8 gravitational manipulation technology. To reach, your species has been classified as possessing Level 2 capabilities. Please explain how you overcame the barrier fields. Morrison looked over at his navigation officer, Pete Collins, who was sitting at the helm controls. Collins was a young man with dark hair and friendly eyes, but right now he looked completely puzzled. He shrugged his shoulders and shook his head. Commander, I'm not familiar with these barrier fields you mention, Morrison replied. Our navigation system is experimental. Designed by Dr. Helen Chang back on Earth, we call it the probability drive. It calculates the most likely path through space-time anomalies. The silence that followed was so complete that Morrison could hear the quiet hum of the ship's air recycling system. Then the screen split into 3 sections showing different alien faces. The first was still Commander Zethkari, but now Morrison could see 2 other beings. One appeared to be made of living crystal that sparkled with internal light. The crystalline being spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. I am Shardsinger Cathara of the Nixari Collective. Captain Morrison, could you explain what you mean by most likely path? The third alien was the strangest of all. It seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting between different colors and patterns. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. I am Flow State Nexander of the Astral Dominion. Captain, are you saying your navigation system uses probability calculations? Morrison felt like he was missing something important. The alien seemed shocked by information that seemed normal to him. Yes, that's right. The probability drive doesn't fight against natural forces like gravity wells or spatial distortions. Instead, it calculates the statistical probability of finding a safe path through dangerous areas. Chief Engineer Roy Bennett stepped up beside Morrison. Bennett was a stocky man with graying hair and hands that were permanently stained with machine oil. He had been working on ships for 20 years and knew the Henderson's Pride better than anyone. Captain, if I may, Bennett said, I can explain how the system works. Morrison nodded. Go ahead, Roy. Bennett pulled out his tablet and called up a simple diagram. The probability drive uses quantum mechanics to find naturally occurring safe passages through dangerous space. We don't try to make the obstacles disappear. We just find the exact right path to slip through them safely. The 3 aliens stared at the diagram with what seemed like growing amazement. Commander Zethkari's eye stalks were moving rapidly, and the crystal being's light patterns were shifting faster. This is impossible, Cathara said, her voice ringing like bells. The probability of finding a safe passage through the barrier fields is less than 1 in several trillion. Bennett smiled and tapped his tablet. That's where the quantum part comes in. The drive doesn't just calculate probabilities. It influences them slightly. Dr. Chang discovered that observation at the quantum level can change probability outcomes. We essentially convince the universe that the safe path is more likely to exist. The energy being called Nexander pulsed with bright colors. You are manipulating the fundamental nature of reality through mathematics and observation. This is beyond level 8 technology? This approaches level 12 capabilities, Morrison frowned. He was getting tired of hearing about these technology levels that meant nothing to him. Level 12? What does that mean exactly? Commander Zethkari's voice carried a note of something that might have been fear. Level 12 civilizations are theoretical. They would possess the ability to manipulate the basic laws of physics themselves. We believe such advancement was impossible. But we're not manipulating anything, Collins said from his position at the navigation controls. We're just using math to find paths that already exist. It's like solving a puzzle instead of breaking down the door. Lisa Park looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm picking up a lot of chatter from other ships. It sounds like more aliens are coming to see us. Through the view screen, Morrison could see additional alien vessels approaching from different directions. Some were sleek and metallic, others seemed to be made of the same crystal material as Kithara, and a few appeared to be pure energy contained in geometric shapes. Captain Morrison, Sethkari said, we need to understand your technology better. What you described should not be possible for a level 2 civilization. I keep hearing about these levels, Morrison replied. Could you explain what they mean? The crystal being, Kithara, spoke up. The technology levels are how we classify different species' capabilities. Level 1 is basic tool use. Level 2 is simple space travel within a home system. Level 3 is faster than light travel. Level 8 is advanced gravitational manipulation. Level 12 is theoretical reality manipulation. And you think we're level 2? Morrison asked. Based on our observations of human technology, yes, Nexander pulsed. Your species uses chemical rockets, metal ships, and basic electronics. These are all level 2 technologies? Bennett laughed. Well, maybe your classification system has some problems. We might use simple materials, but that doesn't mean we use simple ideas. Morrison could see that the aliens were becoming more agitated. Their voices were getting higher and their movements more rapid. It was clear that the Henderson's pride had somehow done something that wasn't supposed to be possible. Captain, Collins said quietly, I've been working on the navigation calculations. I think I can get us back to Earth using the same probability paths we took to get here. How long will that take? Morrison asked. Give me about 6 hours to run the full calculations and we'll be ready to go. Morrison turned back to the aliens on the screen. Commander Zethkari, we appreciate your concern, but we have a mission to complete. We need to finish our survey work and return to Earth to report our findings. You cannot simply leave, Zethkari said urgently. Your presence here raises questions that affect the entire galaxy. If humans can reach restricted sectors, everything we know about technology and physics may be wrong. I understand your concern, Morrison replied, but we're just explorers doing our job. We didn't mean to cause any problems. The three aliens exchanged looks that seemed to communicate something important. Morrison got the feeling that his crew had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple first contact situation. Captain Morrison, Kithara said carefully, would you be willing to demonstrate your probability drive for our scientists? We need to understand how it works. Morrison looked around at his crew. They were all watching him expectantly, waiting for his decision. They had trained for first contact situations, but nothing had prepared them for this level of alien interest in their technology. I don't see why not, Morrison said finally. Roy, can you give them a technical demonstration? Bennett nodded. Sure thing, Captain. Though I'm not sure they're going to like what they see. Dr. Helen Chang never imagined that her work would cause such a stir in the galaxy. Back on Earth, she sat in her laboratory at the Colonial Research Institute, staring at the message from the Henderson's Pride. The crew was safe, but they had encountered alien civilizations that seemed very interested in her probability drive. Meanwhile, aboard the Henderson's Pride, Chief Engineer Roy Bennett was setting up a demonstration for the growing crowd of alien observers. More ships had arrived during the past hour, and the communication channels were filled with excited chatter in dozens of different languages. Captain, I've got representatives from 12 different species wanting to see how our drive works. Lisa Park reported from her station. The Universal Translator is working overtime. Captain Morrison looked at the main screen, which now showed a grid of alien faces. Some were humanoid, others were completely strange. There were beings made of gas, creatures that looked like living plants, and things that defied easy description. Roy, are you ready for this? Morrison asked. Bennett wiped his hands on a rag and nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. I've got the drive's diagnostic systems running so they can see exactly what happens when we calculate a probability path. The demonstration began with Bennett explaining the basic theory behind the probability drive. He used simple words and drew diagrams on his tablet to show how the system worked. Most species try to overcome dangerous areas of space by using more power, Bennett said. You build bigger engines, stronger shields, or more advanced technology. But Dr. Chang took a different approach. She asked a simple question. What if we don't fight the danger? What if we just avoid it? Commander. Zethkari SI stalks moved nervously. But avoidance requires knowing where the danger is. Space is vast, and hazards like gravity wells and energy storms are constantly shifting. That's true, Bennett agreed. But the universe follows rules. Physics is consistent. If you can calculate all the variables, you can predict where safe paths might exist. Shardsinger Kithara crystal body rang with skeptical tones. The number of variables in deep space is infinite. No computer system could process that much information, Bennett smiled. You're right about normal computers, but quantum computers work differently. They can process multiple possibilities. At the same time, Dr. Chang's breakthrough was figuring out how to use quantum observation to influence which possibilities become real. The alien observers fell silent as Bennett activated the probability drive's diagnostic mode. The main screen split to show multiple displays of data streams, probability calculations, and three-dimensional maps of space around the ship. Watch this, Bennett said. I'm going to ask the drive to calculate a path to the nearest star system. Pay attention to the probability readings. The drive hummed to life, and the displays began showing millions of calculations per second. The probability readings started at nearly 0 for all possible paths, then began to shift as the quantum processors worked. The drive is examining every possible route through space, Bennett explained. It's calculating the gravitational effects of stars, the positions of planets, the locations of energy fields, and thousands of other factors. Most paths have a probability of success close to 0. Flow state Nexander pulsed with rapid color changes. The calculations are incredible. Your quantum processors are examining probability spaces that our most advanced computers could not handle. But here's the interesting part, Bennett continued. Watch what happens when the drive starts the observation phase. The probability readings began to change in impossible ways. Paths that had shown 0 chance of success suddenly jumped to higher probabilities. Routes that had seemed completely blocked by gravitational fields were now showing as viable options. This is impossible, whispered a new voice. It belonged to a slug-like creature that had introduced itself as Science Keeper Morthok from the Gelen Consortium. You are changing the fundamental nature of space itself, not changing, Bennett corrected. Observing, Dr. Chang discovered that the act of quantum observation can influence probability outcomes. We're not breaking the laws of physics. We're using them in a way that most people never thought of. Pete Collins looked up from his navigation station. Roy, should I show them how we actually use the drive to plot a course? Go ahead, Pete. Plot a course back to Earth. Collins began entering commands into his console. The displays showed the drive calculating billions of possible paths through space, each one with its own probability rating. Most showed impossible odds, but a few began to climb toward more favorable numbers. The drive is looking for what we call probability corridors, Collins explained. These are paths through space where the odds of survival are higher than average. They're usually very narrow and require precise timing, but they exist. The alien observers watched in fascination as the probability calculations continued. Slowly, a single path began to emerge from the chaos of numbers. It twisted through space in ways that seemed to defy logic, threading between gravity wells and energy storms with mathematical precision. There, Collins said, pointing to the display. That's our route home. The drive has found a path with a 94.7% probability of success. Commander Zethkari's voice was barely a whisper. That path goes through the Maelstrom Nebula. Nothing can survive passage through that region. Actually, something can, Collins replied. If you hit it at exactly the right angle, at precisely the right time, when the energy patterns are in a specific configuration. The drive calculated that there's a 17-second window when safe passage is possible. 17 seconds? Kithara chimed in disbelief. You would bet your lives on a 17-second window? We've done it before, Bennett said casually. The drive has never been wrong. If it says there's a safe path, there's a safe path. The communication channels erupted with alien voices speaking in dozens of languages. The universal translator was struggling to keep up with the flood of excited conversation. Order, order, came a new voice. It belonged to a massive creature. That looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree. I am Grand Admiral Vexthal of the Hegemony Deep Fleet, human vessel. Are you saying your species regularly travels through regions that we consider impossible to navigate? Morrison stepped forward. Not regularly, Admiral. This is only the second time we've used the probability drive for long-distance travel. The first time was when we left Earth to begin this survey mission. And where did you go on that first journey? Vexthal asked. The Kepler 442 system, Morrison replied. We were supposed to survey the planets there for potential colonization. The communication channels went completely silent. Even the background hum of the ship's system seemed louder in the sudden quiet. The Kepler 442 system is surrounded by the Crimson Wastes, Zethkari said slowly. No ship has ever returned from that region. We lost 3 exploration fleets trying to reach it. Really? Morrison looked surprised. We didn't have any problems. The probability drive found a clean path through what you call the Crimson Wastes. We spent 2 weeks surveying the system and found 3 planets suitable for human habitation. Bennett pulled up the navigation logs from their first mission. According to our records, the drive calculated a safe passage through the Crimson Wastes with an 89.3% probability of success. We made the journey in 4 days. 4 days, Vexthal repeated. It would take our fastest ships 4 months to reach the edge of the Crimson Wastes, and they would be destroyed long before reaching the Kepler system. Well, we do have some advantages, Bennett said. Our ships are smaller and more maneuverable than most alien vessels. The probability drive works better with ships that can make quick adjustments to their course. But the main advantage is the drive itself, Collins added. It doesn't matter how big or powerful your ship is if you're taking the wrong path through space. The drive finds the right path. Dr. Chang, sitting in her laboratory on Earth, received another message from the Henderson's Pride. The crew was fine, but they had apparently demonstrated human technology to representatives of major galactic civilizations. The aliens seemed very interested in the probability drive, though Chang wasn't sure why. She had developed the drive as a practical solution to humanity's limited space travel capabilities. While other species used massive amounts of energy to force their way through dangerous regions, Chang had realized that careful observation and calculation could find natural safe passages that required no exotic technology at all. The approach was purely human. Instead of overpowering the problem, they had outsmarted it. Back on the Henderson's Pride, the alien observers were beginning to understand the implications of what they had witnessed. Humanity had developed a form of technology that was fundamentally different from anything in the galaxy. They had found a way to bend probability itself to their will, using nothing more than mathematics and quantum observation. Captain Morrison, Kithara said carefully, your species has achieved something that we believed impossible. You have shown that there are alternatives to our traditional approaches to technology. I'm glad we could help, Morrison replied. But we really do need to complete our mission and return to Earth. We have a schedule to keep. The aliens exchanged looks that seemed to communicate urgent concern. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened faster than any meeting in recorded history. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the massive crystal amphitheater on the Nexari homeworld. The building itself was grown from living crystal that could translate thoughts and emotions between different alien minds, fleet. Admiral Torvin of the Vorthan Empire stood at the center of the amphitheater, his three arms, gesturing toward the holographic display that showed the Henderson's Pride. The small human ship looked tiny compared to the alien vessels surrounding it, but it had become the most important object in the galaxy. "Fellow beings," Torvin announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, "we face a crisis that threatens everything we thought we knew about technology and civilization." The assembled aliens stirred with nervous energy. There were creatures of every imaginable shape and size, beings made of gas that floated in special containers, plant-like entities that swayed in rhythm with their thoughts, mechanical species that clicked and whirred when they moved, and energy beings that pulsed with different colors as they communicated. The humans, whom we classified as a primitive Level 2 species, have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our most advanced civilizations, Torvin continued. They have reached restricted sectors that should be impossible for them to navigate. They have done this using technology that appears primitive but functions in ways we do not understand. Science Keeper Morthak, the slug-like being from the Gellan Consortium, slid forward on his mucus trail. The demonstration we witnessed was beyond anything in our databases. The humans manipulated probability itself using only mathematics and observation. This should not be possible. High Archivist Zindara of the Crystalline Archives chimed in with her bell-like voice. Our records show that humans have been monitored for 63 standard years. In that time, they have shown consistent Level 2 development. Chemical rockets, metal ships, basic electronics. Nothing suggested they possessed advanced capabilities. Perhaps our monitoring was inadequate, suggested Elder Vrexkall of the Biomass Collective. The plant-like being's leaves rustled with concern. Could they have been hiding their true technology from us? Grand Admiral Vexthal shook his massive tentacles. Unlikely. Our surveillance systems are thorough. We have observed their industrial facilities, their research centers, their military installations. Everything appears primitive by galactic standards. The chamber filled with the sounds of concerned discussion as dozens of species talked among themselves. The Universal Translation System worked overtime to convert thoughts, sounds, chemical signals, and energy patterns into communication that all species could understand. Meanwhile, aboard the Henderson's Pride, the human crew continued their work, completely unaware of the galactic upheaval they had caused. Navigation Officer Pete Collins was making final adjustments to their course home, while Chief Engineer Roy Bennett ran routine maintenance on their systems. "Captain," Collins called out from his station, "I've finished the calculations for our return trip. The probability drive has mapped out a safe route that will take us through 47 different gravitational anomalies." Captain Morrison nodded without looking up from his mission reports. "Good work, Pete. How long until we can depart?" "About 2 hours. I want to double-check the probability calculations one more time." Lisa Park glanced up from her communication. "Station, Captain, the alien chatter is getting really intense out there. I can't understand most of it, but they seem pretty excited about something." "Probably just curious about our technology," Morrison replied. "Roy, are you ready to answer more questions about the drive?" Bennett wiped his hands on his coveralls. "Sure, but I'm running out of simple ways to explain quantum mechanics to aliens. Some of these species think in completely different ways than we do." What the human crew didn't realize was that their casual conversation was being monitored by the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Every word they spoke was being analyzed, translated, and debated by thousands of alien scientists and military leaders. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Archon Synthesis Velanara of the Astral Dominion projected waves of calming energy to restore order. The energy being's form shifted through rainbow patterns as it addressed the assembly. The implications of this discovery extend far beyond simple technology, Velanara pulsed. If humans can manipulate probability through observation and calculation, they represent a completely new form of advancement. Our entire classification system may be fundamentally flawed. How can a species develop level 12 capabilities while still using level 2 materials? Asked Battle Commander Grexler of the Iron Legion. The mechanical being's voice buzzed with electronic confusion. Shard singer Kithara, who had participated in the original contact with the Henderson's Pride, rose to address the council. Her crystal form rang with clear tones as she spoke. I believe the humans have taken a fundamentally different approach to technological development, where we focus on harnessing exotic energies and manipulating matter. They have turned to mathematics and the subtle manipulation of reality's underlying structure. But their materials are still primitive, protested Sub-Advisor Kalinix of the Void Wardens. Metal hulls, chemical propulsion, basic life support. How can such simple components achieve impossible results? Perhaps simplicity is the key, suggested Elder Sage Nimtara of the Wisdom Seekers. The ancient being's thoughts moved slowly but carried great weight. We have always assumed that more advanced materials lead to more advanced capabilities. But what if we were wrong? What if the true advancement comes from understanding, not from exotic matter? The chamber fell silent as this idea sank in. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had followed a predictable pattern. More advanced species used more exotic materials and more complex energy systems. The idea that simple materials could achieve superior results challenged everything. They believed about technological progress on the Henderson's Pride. Pete Collins was running his final probability calculations. The drive hummed quietly as it mapped out their route home, finding safe passages through space that other species couldn't even detect. That's interesting, Collins muttered to himself. The drive is showing some really unusual probability spikes near the Vega system. What kind of spikes? Asked Bennett, looking over his shoulder. It looks like there might be a stable passage through the temporal anomaly fields. The drive calculates a 78.6% probability of successful transit. Bennett whistled softly. The temporal anomaly fields? Aren't those the regions where time moves at different speeds? Yeah, but the drive thinks it found a path where the time distortion is minimal. We could cut 3 weeks off our journey home if we take that route. Captain Morrison overheard the conversation. Pete, have any other ships ever tried to navigate through the temporal anomaly fields? I don't think so, Captain, but the probability calculations look solid. The drive has been right every time so far. In the Galactic Council chamber, Emergency Coordinator Zaxalone was reading the latest intelligence reports from the Henderson's Pride. The mechanical being's optical sensors flashed with alarm as it processed the information. Attention, Council members, Zaxalone announced. The human vessel is preparing to depart. Their navigation officer is planning a route through the temporal anomaly fields. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. The temporal anomaly fields were considered absolutely impassable. Ships that entered those regions were either destroyed by time distortions or emerged centuries later with their crews aged to dust. This is madness, declared War Chief Brogmars of the Stellar Dominion. No ship has ever survived passage through those fields. The humans don't seem concerned, Zaxalone reported. They discuss it as if it were a routine navigation decision. Fleet Admiral Torvin felt his heart racing with anxiety. We must stop them. If they attempt passage through the temporal anomaly fields, they will be destroyed. But what if they aren't? Asked Elder Sage Nimtara quietly. What if their probability drive has found a safe path that we never knew existed? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. If the humans could safely navigate the temporal anomaly fields, it would prove that their technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It would mean that humanity had solved problems that the most advanced civilizations considered impossible. Hi, Archivist Zindara's crystal form dimmed with worry. If humans can casually travel through regions that we consider absolutely deadly, what does that say about our own capabilities? What does it say about our understanding of the universe? The truth was becoming clear to the assembled aliens. Humanity's approach to technology was not just different, it was revolutionary. While galactic civilization had spent millennia building Bigger engines and stronger shields to overcome obstacles. Humans had learned to use mathematics and observation to avoid obstacles entirely. They had found a way to work with the universe instead of fighting against it. We need to reassess everything, Velinara pulsed with urgent energy patterns. Our technology classifications, our understanding of physics, our assumptions about what is possible. The humans have shown us that. Captain Jake Morrison stood before the largest gathering of alien representatives in galactic history. The communication screen on the Henderson's Pride showed dozens of different species, all focused on his small survey ship. He still didn't fully understand why his crew had caused such excitement, but he could see the intensity in their alien faces. Captain Morrison, Commander Zethkari spoke carefully, your species has demonstrated capabilities that we believed impossible. The probability drive represents a form of technology that could change everything we know about space travel. We must discuss what this means. Morrison looked around at his crew. Communications Officer Lisa Park was monitoring translation feeds from 47 different languages. Chief Engineer Roy Bennett continued to answer technical questions from fascinated alien scientists. Navigation Officer Pete Collins worked quietly at his station, making final preparations for their journey home. Commander, I appreciate your interest, but we're just explorers doing our job, Morrison replied. Dr. Chang built the probability drive to help us reach distant stars safely. We never intended to cause any problems or change anything. Flow state Nexander pulsed with rapid color changes. Captain, you speak of reaching distant stars as if it were a simple goal. Your species has achieved in a few decades what took most civilizations thousands of years to accomplish. You have redefined what we thought was possible. The truth was becoming clear to Morrison as he listened to the aliens speak. Humanity had somehow developed technology that was far more advanced than it appeared. What seemed normal to humans was impossible to the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Pete, Morrison called to his navigation officer, how are those calculations coming along? Collins looked up from his console with a slight smile. All finished, Captain. The probability drive has mapped a safe route back to Earth. We'll pass through the temporal anomaly fields, navigate around the Crimson Wastes, and thread through about 45 other gravitational hazards. Should be a smooth trip home. The alien representatives on the screen reacted with visible shock. Several of them began speaking at once in their various languages, creating a cacophony of sounds, lights, and energy patterns. Did he say the temporal anomaly fields? Asked Grand Admiral Vexful, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. Those fields are considered absolutely impassable, added Science Keeper Morthak. Ships that enter them are destroyed by time distortions. Collins shrugged. The probability drive found a stable corridor where the time effects are minimal. There's a 91% chance of safe passage if we hit the entry point at exactly the right moment. Morrison could see that the aliens were becoming more agitated with every casual statement his crew made. What seemed like routine navigation to humans was apparently miraculous to everyone else in the galaxy. Captain Morrison, Shardsinger Kithara chimed urgently, you cannot simply leave. Your presence here has raised questions that affect every civilization in the galaxy. If humans can navigate impossible regions of space, everything we know about technology and physics may need to be reconsidered. I understand your concern, Morrison replied patiently, but we have orders to complete our survey mission and return to Earth. The Colonial Authority is expecting our report on potential colony sites. High Archivist Zindara crystal form sparkled with urgent light patterns. Captain, do you realize that your species has just demonstrated the ability to travel through regions that we have avoided for millennia? You have shown that barriers we considered absolute can be overcome with the right approach. Bennett stepped forward, wiping his hands on a maintenance rag. If I may, Captain, I think I understand what's got them so worked up. Morrison nodded for him to continue. These aliens have been building bigger and more powerful ships to overcome obstacles in space, Bennett explained. They use exotic materials, massive energy sources, and complex technology to force their way through dangerous areas. But Dr. Chang took a completely different approach. How so? Asked Morrison. Instead of overpowering the obstacles, she found a way around them. The probability drive uses mathematics and observation to find natural safe passages that already exist. It's like the difference between breaking down a locked door and finding the key. The alien representatives listened intently as Bennett continued his explanation. Most species try to solve problems by applying more force or more exotic technology. Humans solve problems by understanding them better. We use simple materials and elegant solutions instead of brute force approaches. Commander Zethkari's eye stalks moved rapidly as he processed this information. You are saying that human advancement follows a completely different pattern than galactic civilization? That's right, Bennett confirmed. While you've been building more powerful engines to fight gravity, we learned to calculate paths that work with gravity. While you've been developing exotic shields to protect against radiation, we learned to predict where the radiation won't be. Flow State Nexander pulsed with amazement. This explains how you achieve such advanced capabilities with primitive materials. You have not been advancing your technology in the traditional sense. You have been advancing your understanding. Morrison was beginning to grasp the significance of what was happening. Humanity had accidentally revolutionized galactic thinking about technology and space travel. They had shown that there were alternatives to the traditional approaches that alien civilizations had been using for thousands of years. Captain, Collins called from his station, we're ready to depart. The probability window for entering the temporal anomaly fields opens in 37 minutes. Thank you, Pete. Begin pre-departure procedures. The alien representatives watched in fascination and horror as the Henderson's Pride prepared to attempt something they considered suicide. The humans were about to casually navigate through a region of space that had destroyed every ship that had ever tried to enter it. Captain Morrison, Kithara pleaded, please reconsider. The temporal anomaly fields have claimed hundreds of ships over the centuries. No one has ever returned from those regions. Well, no one has ever tried it with a probability drive? Collins replied cheerfully. The math is solid. We've got a clear path mapped through the stable temporal corridors. Bennett was packing up his diagnostic equipment. The beauty of the drive is that it only shows us paths that actually exist. If the computer says there's a way through, then there's a way through. Dr. Helen Chang, sitting in her laboratory on Earth, received another message from the Henderson's Pride. The crew was preparing to return home, using a route through something called the temporal anomaly fields. She made a note to review their navigation data when they returned. The probability drive was performing even better than she had hoped. Back on the ship, Morrison addressed the alien representatives one final time. Commander Zethkari, I want to thank you and your people for your hospitality. It's been fascinating meeting so many different species and learning about galactic civilization. Captain, please wait, Zethkari said urgently. Before you depart, we need to establish formal diplomatic relations with your species. The Galactic Council must meet with human representatives to discuss these technological revelations. Morrison considered this request. I'll pass your message along to the Colonial Authority when we return to Earth. I'm sure they'll be interested in establishing contact with your civilizations. How long will it take you to reach Earth? Asked Velanara. About 6 days using the probability corridors, Collins answered. Maybe 7 if we stop to survey a few interesting systems along the way. The aliens fell silent. A journey that should take months or years for their most advanced ships would be completed by humans in less than a week. As the Henderson's Pride began to move away from the alien fleet, Morrison watched the alien ships grow smaller on the view screen. He still didn't fully understand why their presence had caused such excitement, but he was glad they had made peaceful contact with galactic civilization. Captain, Lisa Park called from her station, I'm receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They're asking if we would be willing to accept an escort of alien observers for our journey home. Morrison smiled. Tell them they're welcome to try to keep up. The Henderson's Pride activated its probability drive and began to phase in and out of normal space, following mathematical pathways that existed only in the realm of quantum possibility. The alien ships watched in amazement as the small human vessel disappeared into the temporal anomaly fields, casually entering a region of space that they had considered absolutely deadly. Within hours, the first reports began arriving. The Hendersons. Pride had successfully navigated the temporal anomaly fields and was continuing on its journey home. What should have been impossible had become routine for the humans. The Galactic Council faced a new reality. Humanity wasn't just another spacefaring species. They were a civilization that had learned to bend probability itself to their will. They had shown that the most advanced solution was sometimes the most elegant one. In research facilities across the galaxy, alien scientists began reconsidering their fundamental assumptions about technology and physics.